over which is better, Marvel or DC. The geek of all of your friends, 'cause you know what Batman beats Superman. This is the right place to be, so turn up the volume, 'cause you're an altered geek. Altered geek. Get altered. Geek. Altered geek. From Star Wars to Star Trek, comics to tech. Altered geek. Get altered. Geek. Altered geek. Pull up a chair, 'cause you're an altered geek.
Hello and welcome to the monumental 300th episode of Altered Geek, which is the second podcast to officially grasp this title, close to the pull bag. I'm your host, as always, Steve Megatron Phillips, and joining me are the two Mikes, TFG1, and my original co-host of the podcast, Mike Booth Ninja Powers. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, welcome back. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Beginning of the summer, right? I think.
Yep,
Something
thereabout.
like that.
It was the last time I was on, and not a whole lot's happened for me since then. I've started a new job, which I like a lot more than my old one. But I've just started getting. I did I think I'm almost in my 4th month of on-the-job training, and it's just everything is just now kind of starting to settle. Like, I don't have like a set shift yet, and I don't have a set area that I'm going to be responsible for. And by that, I guess I should say I am. They call them assigners, but it is technically I'm a dispatcher for. What is it? What would be the right word? Well, gas, natural gas, or like stoves and homes and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Very cool.
Utility work dispatcher.
There you go.
Right now, I've been primarily helping out and telling people in Pennsylvania and Maryland what to do. But the company I work for also services a number of other states. And so I don't, when I'm set loose and I'm not training anymore, I don't know which of those states I'm going to be responsible for. But so it's like I'm one of those guys. I don't like to be a jack of all trades. I like to get really good at one thing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm looking forward to getting a set shift with a set area and getting to know everybody and learn the areas that they actually cover a lot more than I do now.
Now, does this mean you'd have to move?
Nope. The company I work for is headquartered right here. All the dispatching for all the states that we work with or we service is all the dispatching work is done right here in Columbus.
Oh, very cool.
So it's just it's about a 30-minute commute to work, and so I think basically I'm taking the long way around to getting to the point where I'm getting comfortable enough with the job where I'm almost to the point where I'm comfortable enough with the job to not need a decent night's sleep to do it.
Nice.
Which is another way of coming back around to saying I'm hoping to be able to participate in podcasting more. But I don't. I have no ETA for that because this job is important, given that it's the one job I was able to get after the job that brought me down here. So I got to make sure I can I can keep it. But from everything I've heard from where I work, from everyone that works there, it's like you either leave or you have to do something really, really bad to get fired.
Oh, wow.
So it's one of those jobs where you have the potential to be set for basically as long as you want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to because, yeah, I think it works out and I'm able to compartmentalize my life. When I leave work, I'm actually done. I'm not on call for another 6 hours like I would be with my previous job.
Mm-hmm.
So I can come home and I can enjoy watching my TV. I can play some video games.
That kind of sounds similar to my situation.
Yeah. Which is what because we haven't caught up a whole lot.
No, when I used to work for a online broadcasting company based out of Dallas, Texas, and
Right.
You're overworked and underpaid, and so you're basically on a tether on your phone is what I felt like, because even when I wasn't working or I would be trying to go to bed, they would be blowing up your phone.
Oh.
And your email and your text and the app Slack. And being I was in charge of like the radio and the podcasting side, if anything went wrong, I had to answer. Because producers were part-time and they weren't around, and so like, I mean, yeah, I could punch in, but still working from home was much easier, but it also meant that I never unplugged because I was constantly like at arms that I was going to be needed at any given time. And so I hated to take days off, because even if I took days off, I could still get bothered.
Yep.
So it was, I mean, I enjoyed the job as a whole, and I tried to have a lot of things accomplished and tried to make a lot of changes that would be positive for the company. However, they were having financial difficulties about every quarter, and I happened to not make the cut this particular quarter. And so little birdie tells me another whole team is going away in another quarter. But yeah, I'm sad that I don't work in media anymore, if that makes any sense. But at the same time, I'm kind of relieved because I get my free time back and I get to spend time with my kids more, other than my current job, which I've probably applied to about 300 plus jobs since my initial layoff. And some of the jobs I'd gotten interviews for, I should have slam dunked, and I did get callbacks, and would just never hear from the job again, which is kind of like either they dropped the ball or they just decided that they just, to go in a different direction, and just, they're like, it doesn't matter. Which, if you're on LinkedIn at all, they're like, oh, these people that do that, even the recruiters are saying it, that it's kind of like crappy of these people to not get back to you, but yet, it's, I don't know, totally different world. And so I work for a health food store now. This particular person owns like a pharmacy and like 3 health food stores. And I was hired to do originally like social media and marketing, which has devolved into IT and inventory, because their point of sale system blows. It's like 12 years old, or maybe exaggerated a little bit, but it's still like it's super old, and it's not time efficient in any stretch of the mean. And so I've been spending the last month and a half trying to get a new point of sale, and like the person involved kind of drags their feet on some of the cost issues associated with it. Plus, I'm supposed to do marketing and social media and all this other stuff around it. And they kind of want to dump their load in Facebook. And I'm like, you kind of need like the multifaceted marketing of, there is some degree of print and there is some degree of the other social media platforms. And yet it doesn't understand any of it. So it's kind of put me in a unique situation where I have to try and figure this out around somebody that they just want what they want, but don't understand anything that goes along with it. And then they've had all kinds of website issues that I'm trying to sort out, because they've tried to go the cheap route. And so now it's, paying the consequences of it. So I'm trying to sort it all out, and then so in the grand scheme of things, I'm learning some things that I didn't know about marketing. I'm learning. I took a couple things at M Live downtown Flint, which were beneficial, and I'm following some people now, and I've kind of beefed up my LinkedIn, so I'm kind of trying to grow that particular social media platform for future employment opportunities, and So yeah, I've been doing that and then learning a bunch of new things that may come in handy. Plus, I'm building up a visual portfolio that I didn't have before, which some of the things I've applied for, they're like, oh, we need a portfolio, and I don't necessarily have one. So I'm like, yeah, go to Geekcast Radio, and which isn't really a good portfolio. I mean, it shows my work, but it doesn't, like, it's not singular images of diverse imagery. It's all kind of the same boat. And so I've been collecting all of these marketing materials that I've been using for their establishment and kind of putting them all on a web page like, hey, this is what I can do. So yeah, it's not really what I want to do. There's no benefits to it at all. It pays the same, but it's yeah, it's not really where I want to be. I want to be back in media. So I'm trying to get my foot back in the door somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know that I could ever. I miss doing what I did, like servicing the projectors. It was fun, but 80 hours a week was not my. It became too much, and it was not. At the end of the day, it was not important. Like the money was not. I didn't need to be working 80 hours a week to live.
No.
So. It just became, and things have gotten so much better since I left the other job, and I have this one, and I can compartmentalize everything. Like we've started re-exploring, Columbus, and we've started going back to places that we went while I was working with the other company, and that we maybe tried like once and didn't really care for, but we go again, and it's like. It's different because I'm not constantly checking the phone in my pocket to have to run out the door or rush through dinner. And that's great. Like being able to just come home from work and actually, just compartmentalize. Like I said, like, I leave from work, I get in my truck and I'm done. Like by the time I get in my truck and I start driving home, I've already forgotten about the entire day. Even if it was like a particularly bad day, by the time I get to my truck, it doesn't come home with me, and I don't bring home to work with me.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat.
That's how I've always been with a job. Like when I go to work, like I'm at work, and when I come home, I'm at home. I didn't like bringing it home, and having to. On the nights when I was lucky enough to get home and be on the couch at 5 o'clock with my wife, like I said, I'd still have to check my work phone for another 5 hours, to see if something stupid happened or to respond to some email. And it's like, that's not, but this, I'm pretty sure I covered all this, earlier, but yeah. I've gotten back on my feet, and the job's going well. I enjoy it. And, much happier now than I was at the beginning of the year. And yeah, like I said, longest story short, I'm just now getting to the point where I should be able to do the job here pretty soon without needing a full night's sleep, and which means I'll hopefully be able to record some more podcasts. So
cool.
Yay. So, lots happened since last recording with you. I actually hosted a Star Trek event convention at the Michigan Science Center.
I saw that come across my feed. Congratulations to you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, they asked me to do it, and I was like, okay. And then they said I was going to have a co-host. And when I got there, about 10 minutes before the event started, they're like, I said, so where's my co-host at? And they're like, oh, so-and-so just had some people show up and decided that you could do it on your own. And I was like, oh, okay. Because one, I've never spoke in front of a large group of people, and it looked like it was going to be a nice small group of 10, 15 people. And then the longer the trivia event went on, the more people started gathering around. The funny thing is the event to go to during that entire get together was the trivia event. Like that was like the main event to go to. I give them some props because they tried to bring in the people, but at the same time, there really wasn't a whole lot to do. The only thing that saved that evening was the trivia event that went from like 7 to 7:45, and then they had a couple like different activities, and they had like a bar, type thing, and because it was like a 21 and over event, and then they had the Star Trek fan club, Starfleet International, which I'm associated with through the podcast Future Imperfect, and they had like a space flight simulator program they brought with them, and so those were like the two things to do like the entire night, and I was trying to record a live podcast there, and there's this like 70-year-old lady that was there, like she was getting hammered, and I probably should have recorded it just because it was kind of funny, because I had all my stuff set up, like I had my computer, I had my phone, my microphone and everything, and she's just like, I used to watch sci-fi back when they had strings holding the ships up, and just it was just really humorous, but so I ended up recording the trivia event from like round 2 on to the end of it, and some of the funny stuff, and then there were people that were hardcore geeks could tell you like what episode and everything, and like could speak in Klingon, and I was like, yeah, I'm not that big of a nerd on it, but
I've found that like as big of a nerd as you think you might be in something, so there's always a bigger one. Yeah. And then it makes you kind of like, me anyways, I go, I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
That's always the reaction I have, and never outwardly towards like somebody, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but I just kind of like, I'm not that bad.
Yeah,
okay.
I kind of felt in that boat too, but I mean, I wasn't knocking him in any of the means, because like I was like, oh, that's actually really cool, and there were a lot of people that had different various generational Starfleet uniforms, and I described them on Future Imperfect when I did that episode, but because I actually recorded like my recap on the car ride home, because it was like an hour drive home, and I was like, I'm just gonna record, but. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and honestly, like I would do another like live podcast or live event like that again, because once I started throwing my sarcasm and humor into it, it made me so much more at ease, and the event went that much more smooth, just because I was having fun screwing with people, and then some of the know-it-alls were piping up and giving the answers away, and I'm like, if you want to win the prize, it's probably not in your best interest to give that answer away, because they had like giveaways from like the Star Trek Expedition and like the IMAX and like posters and everything, and so I pulled out this app on my phone just to see if anybody would guess it, because we had some hardcore nerds there. It was a stardate generator. So it would show you the stardate and the various Star Trek timelines. And I was like, what's the stardate for blah, 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 blah. And then like that old lady like guessed the original series one. Like she was off by like 3 digits. And I was like, okay. I'm like, okay, game over. But yeah, it was just crazy. So, do we want to get into the comments?
Sure.
We're going to do the Reader's Digest version because I figure these are good topic points to bring up in a future episode anyway. So, Scanner 51 sent us the message specifically for Booth Ninja of wanting a new TV. He says Samsung or Philips OLED or QLED. He says he's got a 48-inch now, looking to expand up another 20 inches. So, yeah. I know zero about the new televisions because mine is a 52-inch plasma. So,
well, I thought about this when you sent this to me earlier today. I've only got 2 answers here. One is don't go with Samsung or Philips, just based on you're paying for a name. And I say that as someone who wholeheartedly admits that I am an Apple fan, and I am 50% of my purchase of an Apple product is literally paying for the name. But don't go with Samsung. And one of the reasons I say that is because they don't support all of the 4K UHD perks. And by that, I mean they don't support Dolby Vision, which is superior to HDR10 in just about every way imaginable. And if you have the ability to watch HDR10 content and Dolby Vision content, it's really easy to tell. And you don't want to limit yourself because there isn't a standard that is set with 4K, which makes it kind of a moving target when you're purchasing something. Now, I would recommend if you're looking at an LED TV, and sometimes I get flack for this, sometimes I don't. I'm a big fan of the Vizio P series, and they have their own, it's called the P series Quantum. It is a QLED display with the same abilities as the Samsung QLED, almost the same panel, and that should be very impressive. So if QLED is the way you want to go, I definitely recommend the Vizio P series Quantum, because I think it starts at $1,500 and they only offer it in one size, which is 65 inches. Now you put OLED in there. So if you have the money to pull off an OLED, there's no conversation. Just get an LG OLED TV and be done with it. The LG OLED TVs support Dolby Vision and HDR10, and it's an OLED, which is the best thing you can get after Plasma, which is defunct. So that was kind of my thought when I first read this, is that if you're having the conversation of OLED versus QLED, OLED is the way to go. If those four letters are in your price range, yeah, that's where you want to go. If OLED is not, I definitely recommend the Vizio P Series Quantum, or even the P Series, which I have. I have the 2014, the 2016, and the 2018 P Series, and I've never watched or seen. Sorry, that was my phone. Weird. I've never seen a TV manufacturer support a TV for as long as I've seen Vizio support their TVs. I still get updates for my 2014 Vizio P Series.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I've watched the picture quality on all three TVs get better over time because they keep releasing firmware.
So what would be the base price on the OLED?
It depends on the size, but I think a 55-inch starts at around $2, maybe. The 65 that I usually look at is between $3 and $4.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I honestly believe that an OLED is the next place I'm going. I've bought my last Vizio P Series. I don't think the picture isn't going to get any better unless I end up going with an OLED TV. If you're a cinephile, you probably want an OLED TV. But if you just want something that's going to look really, really good and doesn't cost a lot of money, the Vizio P Series is where you want to go. So
It's good to know for a dude that's still sitting with a Plasma. So
Plasma is and was no joke. There's a couple of like things that I almost bought a Plasma right before they went out, but I couldn't bring myself to pull the trigger with 4K kind of around the corner and it being on its way out. Plus the ones I was looking at were outside of my price range at the time. I wanted one that didn't have a gray screen, and I didn't want. There were a lot of Plasmas made at the end that they used like I think the name was called Pentile pixel arrangement, which was like it went red, green, blue, red, green, blue, green, red, green, blue, green, instead of red, green, blue, red, green, blue. Mm-hmm. And if you, I don't know, I don't want to say how close you'd have to be to it, but it ended up, because the green, there were more green pixels than anything else, it ended up being like you could, like a screen door, you could see the green lines in the display. And so I was kind of like, so I just went with, I ended up going with the Vizio, the Vizio P series from 2014. And I lucked into my most recent one just because I bought Geeks. Now, funny story, if you have the opportunity, I've never bought Geek Squad on anything until I worked at Best Buy, and then I bought Geek Squad on my 2016 Vizio P series when I purchased it on my way out the door to come start my new job down here in Columbus. But I don't know what happened. The TV is still fine. Depending on who you are, you can or cannot see it. The TV just at the beginning of, I think it was June or July, it started like, just if you put up like a white test pattern, or if you saw like a blue sky, there'd be like a shadow in the middle of the screen. And if you put up a white test pattern, it ended up looking yellow, like there was heat damage. I don't know what would cause it, but I called up, I had Geek Squad protection on the TV, so I called up Best Buy, and they sent a tech out to the house, and I'm like, this is great. I'm going to pull this up, and the guy's not going to be able to see it, and we're going to have to go around because I can see it. And but sure enough, the guy came. I threw up the white test pattern. He took one look at the TV, and he said, does it do this across everything? I said, yes, sir. He goes, all right, yeah, we're just going to replace the TV. And I had two options. One was they could deliver the like model TV of the current generation, which is the 2018 P series. They could deliver that to my house and take away the old one because it was quote unquote bad. Or I could get store credit for the price of the 2018 version, and I can keep the original TV. The original TV wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, so I kept it, and I took their gift card and I went and bought the 2018 version of the TV.
Oh, cool.
So I lucked out. My wife now uses that one as her gaming TV, and it still looks good. But the bottom line is, if you want the best bang for your buck, go with the Vizio P series, either the normal P series or the Quantum. That's what you're going to want to go with. But if you're talking about OLED, you're definitely going to want to save up your pennies and go with an OLED TV. So
good to know. I had a similar situation with the trading in of basically getting an upgrade and getting to keep the old TV. I bought a TV at ABC Warehouse years ago and paid for the warranty, which at the time was really stupid, but when I got to cash it in, the sound was starting to go on the board for the TV, and it was a 42-inch plasma. And I think that one was a Panasonic, and all they had was a Samsung when I went to go cash it in. And they're like, if you pay an extra $100, you get, a bigger screen, And I was like, fine, take the extra $100. I'll take the, and they're like, and you can keep the old TV. And I was like, okay, I'm good. and then I just gave it away to a friend because I was like, I really don't need two TVs. And he was like, I'm moving, I don't have a TV. And I was like, here, you can have my old one. So, it worked fine. It just, it at points would kind of blip out during stuff, like on one side of the TV, which was annoying. But if you don't have a TV, I guess it's great. So,
right. Well, there's ways around that too.
Yeah, I just didn't want to deal with it. So I could have hooked up external speakers and it would have just been fine. I didn't want to deal with it. So, but yeah, that answers that question. His other, multitude of questions that we're going to sift through at the moment. He says that he's getting into the DC Universe app, but he's also he states how it's basically paid itself off for him because of the comics and all the other things on there. He says, but with Disney recently announcing their service, Disney Play, no price yet, but said that the two articles he's read said that the service is going to be the Netflix killer, and he believes that it won't be. However, even with the debacle of them not having the rights to the Star Wars movies themselves, it's still not a deal breaker with the amount of content and things that they've bought up over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how. Okay, so when it comes to streaming services, I don't ever really look at one as killing the other. Although I will hands down say that Netflix is king. Compared to other streaming services that I've tried. But the nice thing about a streaming service on like a cable package, you're usually not signing up for a commitment to anything, which means you can sign up, you can pay your $6, you can binge watch an entire season of whatever you signed up to watch, and you can immediately cancel it.
It's more like $12 to $20 at this point, but yeah.
For what?
Netflix?
Well, yeah, but you don't have to pay that much. I pay that much because I have 4K streaming.
You can still get it for like $9.
Yeah, there's the higher tier plans. The only reason to pay the higher tier plans is if you have multiple people streaming at the same time and if you have 4K. If you're paying that much for Netflix and you're not streaming it more than 2 times at the same time, you're paying too much. But Netflix is the one that I would never cancel. Like, I keep Netflix to put something on in the background when I am doing something else. Like, that's what I keep it for. And but I'm talking about services like HBO. Like, my wife and I, we just signed up again for HBO after they finished doing Westworld season 2. Mm-hmm. We signed up for it. We binged all of it. I still have it because I'm slowly picking through the movies that they added in the downtime, which for a streaming service, and for it being HBO, I'm really, really pissed off about their streaming service because they treat movies like crap.
Yep.
They format them to fit your TV, and they do it in the most god-awful way, which is if it's a flat or if it's a scope movie where you're supposed to have the bars at the top and bottom, all they do is grab the very top of the image and stretch it to fill the top. So everything at the top and the bottom looks fuzzy and out of focus, and they just destroy everything. And the other thing that I've noticed, or that I've heard, haven't quite seen myself because I really wouldn't know how to tell, is they sometimes will play the airplane edits.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Of movies.
Yep. I've seen that.
Like,
there was one. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying, like, I don't notice that too much because I don't fly, and I wouldn't watch a movie on the plane anyways. So,
I don't know. The two that I subscribe to mainly is Netflix and Hulu. I do Hulu for the next day thing because that's nice. Like, if I don't want to watch insert show name here with commercials on my cable package, I don't mind paying the $12 a month for Hulu to watch it next day ad free. Like, I do that with Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live, whatever. I don't care. And thankfully, Monday Night Raw is an hour and a half versus 3 hours of the actual show. The thing with HBO and Showtime and Star, all those apps, like, I tried the HBO app for one thing. We did an episode of Mayhem Mike's talking about the Andre the Giant HBO documentary. I got a free trial to HBO Go or Now or whatever it was just to see that one thing. Everything else on there, I liked the content, but I didn't like the way it was displayed, and I didn't like the way it showed because it was just stupid. It was just god-awful to watch it.
They don't. But so HBO, their streaming platform is just garbage.
It is, yeah.
But I don't know what Disney's going to be. I don't know what the DC one is, but the only thing that's on DC right now that remotely interests me would be the Batman the Animated Series stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But I also have that pre-ordered on Blu-ray. So
Right.
I'm not streaming that. I will watch that off of a disc, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, everything else, like, I will wait for Titans to be finished before I go and sign up for it, and I'll binge watch the entire season, because I think that's like, The one thing I like about Netflix is that they put out a lot of content, and it allows them to dump entire seasons of shows for people to binge in one sitting.
Yeah.
And then you can just go watch something else. And I don't like I no longer like the drip feed method of we're going to do one episode a week. And that's what they're doing with the DCU, isn't it?
Yep.
Isn't it?
I don't know.
They are. They are.
Yeah, they're trying to do one new episode of a TV show every week.
I kind of have a problem with that too, just because, like, one, we're in the day and age when, I mean, if it's on cable, that's one thing. Like, if you're going to do the week-to-week thing, I get it. Cable, you kind of have to do it. But if you're on a streaming service, it's really annoying. Like, and that's the thing I got to give Netflix kudos on, is the fact that they don't make you have to go through that. They give you exactly what you want. And and then they have so much other stuff on there that you can kind of, if you finish it, then there's not really a reason to cancel for the most part, especially with the amount of content they're dumping on there nowadays. But like CBS All Access, they were trying to get people to sign up for Star Trek Discovery, and it's not. To me, it's not worth waiting every week to get an episode of it. I mean, granted, the first season was because they aired in Canada and on Netflix, and they had to do the drip feed because of that. But as far as I know, season 2 isn't going to be on either. They're just going to be on CBS All Access, as well as the after tracks, or not the after tracks, but the Trek shorts. Like, the Trek shorts are only going to be on CBS All Access, and I have a feeling a lot of their other extra series will be as well. And even then, I don't think it's really worth paying for the service.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I've tried. Okay, so just recently, because I wanted my wife and I to catch up on NCIS Los Angeles, because that, out of the 3 NCIS shows, that's my favorite at this point. And I had only seen bits and pieces of season 9, which was the last season. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll sign up for a free week of CBS All Access. Fine, what do I care? I checked it out. They had every episode of NCIS LA except episode 2 for some odd reason on there. They now have nothing but clips. Maybe that's because NCIS LA is returning for its 10th season kind of thing. Like, the premiere of the new season is coming. But, like, why would you remove a whole show of the last season before you can catch up, before you see the next new season kind of a thing? I wish CBS just kept making deals with Hulu or Netflix or whatever when it comes to season shows, to have seasons drop on them. Another one of my favorite shows, for some odd reason, CBS only has 50 of the 122 episodes of Nash Bridges. That makes no sense to me. Why am I going to pay $9.99 a month and only have half of a television show? I don't get it. So I went ahead and I did the free week. I went to cancel it, and they're like, oh, well, we'll give you the next 2 months half off. I'm like, okay, sure, fine, because I'm like, whatever, I'll try it and I'll see it if I like it more. I'm probably not going to. But for me, when it comes to streaming services, it's Netflix and Hulu. I just hope that with the DC Universe app, the deal that Warner Brothers or whoever, Warner Time, whatever the hell, I hope the deal that they have with Netflix for the new seasons, like the next new seasons for the CW shows, doesn't expire until a couple of years. Because if I can't watch Flash or Legends or whatever without having to subscribe to DC Universe, that's going to piss me off. Is that going to make me cancel Netflix? No, because there's plenty of other stuff on Netflix. But I don't know.
I think that's different because that's a deal that has that Netflix has with CW, not with.
Right.
So it's if the CW doesn't give up, those shows to Warner Brothers, then there's no reason it shouldn't be on Netflix.
Right.
I mean, it's the same thing that people are worried about. The Marvel shows on Netflix going to Disney's platform, and I don't see that happening.
Yeah. I mean, Marvel has shows everywhere. They have shows on Netflix. They have shows on Hulu. They have shows here. They have shows there. So whether it goes to Disney or not, I mean, they've got shows all over the place. And I think Disney is just letting Marvel do what Marvel does. Like, I don't see a lot of the Disney footprint on Marvel yet.
No, because they kept them there. Well, there's the big one, but I don't want to bring that up here.
What's the... No, you can't tease that.
No, I can. Disney fired Gunn.
Oh, well, there's that.
Yeah, that was Disney. So,
Yeah.
But the devil's advocate here, the exact reason we were just talking about how you can sign up for a service and you can binge a season and then drop it. Mm-hmm. That is why CBS All Access and HBO and I'm going to assume Starz and Showtime and the bigger guys and DCU, they do weekly shows instead of dumping them all at once because if they can drip feed an audience, like
the audience will stay.
Well, yeah, if they can drip feed the audience and get them to pay for 3 months of a service to watch a show, versus someone like me who's going to wait 3 months and I'm going to give you your $7 and I'm going to watch all of it, and then I'm going to watch all 12 of the episodes that you made, and then I'm going to take full advantage of every other thing that you have on there for a month for $7. Of course, that's what they're because they don't have the content, they don't have the money right now that Netflix does but Disney does.
Yeah, Disney does.
Disney's, I think, the only rival to Netflix in that. I mean, yeah, Hulu is too, but that's because they also a lot of other television stations have partial ownership in the network, so that's neither here nor there. But as far as like original content, I think Netflix and Disney are about the only ones that can rival each other in that territory.
I mean, Hulu does have original content. They're working on producing more of it. I've seen several. I haven't actually watched any of these, but I've seen several shows pop up in my Hulu feed saying, hey, this is a Hulu original. Check it out now, kind of a thing. Let me ask you guys, what do you think of the DC Universe being either $7.99 a month or $75 a year? Which would you rather do?
Am I getting free shipping? That's an Amazon joke.
Well, I mean, averaged out over 12 months, $7.99 is actually $96 for the year. So technically, $75 would be cheaper, but they're probably locking you into those 12 months. You can't just subscribe 1 month and cancel the next because you're paying for the whole year.
Oh, right. So if you signed up for that and you canceled, all it would say is your service is canceled like on this date 12 months from now. Yeah. Unlike if you signed up from month to month and you canceled. When you do that, they don't suspend. I think Hulu is the only one that will prorate you and credit you. Other services are like, you have this until the end of the month.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if Hulu does that anymore. So
I'm not sure because I've never unsubscribed to it. I've added stuff to it. Like my wife wanted to watch the last season of Shameless because she loves that show. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure. We'll watch it week to week or whatever. And because we only pay for Starz on our cable package, because at the time it was like $8-9 a month additional on the cable fee. So we're like, oh, sure, I'll sign up for whatever on Hulu. I'll add Showtime and whatever. So we paid for that for a little while, and then we just took it off because she finished the season. So I like that about Hulu, that Hulu allows you to either, like, their packages are outrageous. Obviously, you can go the free package and have ads and everything else. You can do $7.99. You can do $11.99. You can add on various things like Showtime and HBO at whatever price that those are. Like, I think the Showtime, when we added it on, it was an additional $9. So we were paying like 23 something at the time for the 3 months that we had it. But they also allow you to add like live news and sports and things. So again, the whole cord cutting thing, but still having an actual option to watch what you would watch on a cable package, I think is cool that Hulu does that. But you're right about Netflix, about dropping the whole seasons, because that's, again, we live in a binge-watching era right now.
Yeah, that cord cutting thing, the Hulu Live, the YouTube TV, the Direct TV now, that stuff is an entirely different topic.
Oh yeah,
but I feel like that stuff is very, very fastly, or very quickly, if you will, becoming a regular cable package, and people are going to turn against that as well. Like,
true.
Those are getting out of hand way faster than I thought they would.
Yeah. Without going too deep into it, I wouldn't subscribe to them just because it's just another fee that you have to pay.
Well, I have YouTube TV. So my all of my services are split. The cost of all of my streaming services are split with my parents. They cut the cord completely at the beginning of the year. And I set them up with everything, and they all have their own separate accounts on all of on Hulu and HBO and YouTube TV. So like my bill, my packages are all cut in half because I share it with my parents. So I have access to YouTube TV. I've never watched a live thing on there. Mm-hmm. I went to the on-demand section and watched the latest season of The Walking Dead. And then they pulled it when I had 3 episodes left, and I was like, why would you pull it? And now it just showed up on Netflix, so I'll finish it there. But they keep raising the price on it. All of them keep raising their prices by $5 every couple of months, it seems. And they're just and for your $5, they're throwing in another handful of channels that you're never going to watch. But it's not like you still can't buy like a package at the original price with the original channels.
Yeah,
they're slowly turning it into this. It's all or nothing, the way that cable is, and nobody wants that. But that's, like I said, that's a topic for like another thing here. But going back to Scanner 51's comment here about the Disney app not being a Netflix killer. And his only argument for it not being a Netflix killer are the fact that they won't own, or they don't have the rights to 10 of their movies, given that they're Star Wars movies. I get that might be like an alarm for some people, but I also feel like those people that are saying that they don't have those 10 movies also already own those 10 movies, and wouldn't be signing up for Disney Play to watch those movies. And you can't tell me that a Star Wars TV show that's in development by Jon Favreau isn't going to get all the mad money.
Oh yeah, it most definitely will.
Like, it will make up for not having those 10 Star Wars movies.
Oh yeah, totally.
Along with the pantheon of everything else that Disney has under its umbrella, which now includes Fox. So,
yep.
It's there's no reason it won't be a success. It's going to come down to price, and for me, more so than price, it's really going to come down to the quality of the the quality of their service. Because if it ends up being another HBO, F that. Like, I think Disney needs to come to play the way that they did during, like, when Blu-ray was just hitting its stride, and they were the go-to studio to show you how Blu-rays needed to be authored. I really think that they need to step up to the plate and rival Netflix in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why it's taken them so long to do it. I think it's because they are going to reinvent the space.
But they need to do what Netflix has done, and they need to support as many standards as they possibly can across the board. Unlike other people, other streaming platforms, which really are, all their content is, of a lesser quality. I'm excited to see what it is. The DCU one doesn't really interest me because now maybe you guys can answer me this. I thought Netflix got Young Justice season 3.
They were going to, but then Warner and DC came out with DCU.
But
yep.
wasn't that seems kind of shady because it really only revived because of its success on Netflix.
I could have sworn it was, yeah.
Yep.
The thing with the DC Universe app is that I've downloaded it on my phone. I haven't subscribed for a free trial or anything like that yet. I don't know if I ever will. From what I've read, from what I've seen, from screen caps I've seen of people using it, what I like about it is that it's giving us various older content that we may not like. I know some people, like Steve, have DVDs up to the ceiling.
Well, I used
kind of a thing. Well, I'm saying someone like you, even though you only used to at this point, even I used to have DVDs all the way up to the ceiling, kind of a thing. But the cool thing with DCU for me is like being able to go on there and watch all 4 seasons of Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, or going on there to see Superman 1, 2, 3, or 4, or like that kind of a thing. What I think is cool that they're doing is they're also, I don't know how this works because I haven't looked at it, but offering comics on an app outside of Comixology. Like, yes, I know Marvel has their unlimited thing and DC had some sort of other comics app that they used, but I've only ever used Comixology for comics. So having the ability of viewing DC Comics on their exclusive app for one low price, even though they switched the comics out, I think that's kind of cool. No other streaming service has really done that. I don't know.
No one's done. I mean, the only way that Marvel could do that is if they did a Marvel app, like they and packaged it in all of their TV shows. Like DC is in a unique space to do that, but it's not. Marvel just hasn't done it in one app. Marvel's, like you said, even DC had their own app and they just merged it into their streaming service. It's not that no one's done it. I just think it's like no one's put it in one place.
Right.
Because Marvel has it, that's just not under one banner.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with what I have right now with Netflix, Hulu, and my Xfinity package that we have. I mean, I don't need, sure, 2 months at half the price of what ad-free CBS All Access is. Ad-free CBS All Access is $10 a month. So half of that for 2 months, that's fine for me. We'll check it out. We'll use it a little bit, and then after 2 months, we'll cancel it. But I've always been fine. Even before I met my wife and we have a TV package and all that, all I was doing when I was single was watching Netflix and Hulu. I didn't have a TV back when I was living in Kentucky, kind of a thing, and I watched everything on the computer. So doesn't really matter to me either way. I think there are certain advantages to each of the apps. The thing with the Disney one is, it's, again, like you guys said, it's going to come down to price. It really, really is. Price, how the app functions and all of that. Like when you guys were talking about that earlier, I pulled up the current Disney Now app on my phone. And if the Disney Play app functions the way the Disney Now app does, I think it'll work. But who knows what's going to happen until it actually hits. Since Disney bought Fox, don't they have the largest share of Hulu now too?
They do.
They do.
Yeah. So now that's a conflict of interest right there. So.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. They may have to you may either see them fold Hulu into their thing, or see them possibly sell part of it off. But I more so see them merging it.
There was a story I saw the other day about how Comcast had bought Sky and how that was going to affect Hulu, but I haven't seen anything about...
Comcast bought Sky because Disney couldn't legally own it as a part of the deal. As a part of the Fox deal. So Fox had to sell it to someone else, and Comcast was originally trying to get all of Fox.
Yeah.
And Disney was really the pony that Fox was going after anyway. Plus they backed up the money truck. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of a more so that they just couldn't legally own it. So that's why Comcast bought it. So I think we'll move on to the last topic and then kind of call it a night. And this is about podcasting. So Scanner51 says the question for the show that he has is when did we start holding podcasts really high standards? Is podcasting going to go the way of regular radio? Will there be a fear of if your podcast gets too big, someone might dig stuff up on you? Will there be an effort or something of not getting too big? Basically, just getting in trouble for digging a giant hole for things you said a long time ago.
I think for myself, I think since I've had a social, like a present, like it sounds like common sense, right? I feel like there are people that got on the social media train when it took off, and we've talked about the beginning of social media, in reference to toxic fandom, and stuff like that. And I brought up back, in 2007 is when I feel like that when that started to take off with the Transformer movie, was the first time I ever really remember seeing it. But I feel like personally myself, since I started to try to, even, with Facebook and Twitter, and then when I started to try to become a podcaster, I'm very conscious about the way that I speak and what I tweet and what I share, because like that is a record of you're putting yourself out there, and that's what people are going to see. That's what people are going to try to search through if they're going to try to find out more information about who you are or anything like that. And that's the way I've always treated it, is like I think that even comes from like a kid writing stuff down. Like you don't write something down that you don't want somebody else to see. And I've just treated social media that way, and podcasting. Like I don't share my thoughts on a podcast that I don't 100% stand by. I don't try. I believe. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I believe with the shows that I've done and with the guests that I've had and with you guys, I've tried to keep myself like above board and not make too many off-color remarks that could damage me later. But I also like to think that the content that I've helped create, and this, doesn't really mean too much now after, the events of the summer, but you start to think that, the content that you've helped create might help if you've made one off-color remark. But I don't believe that I have, in either in a tweet or a Facebook post or even in a podcast form. So I'm not really too worried about, someone going through stuff to, try to knock me down a peg. But then again, I'm not the one here in this record that, of the two, the three of us, I've never gotten a show to 300 episodes. So,
I mean, the fact that I had in 9.5 years, I have just under 2,500 podcasts under my belt. I didn't think the number was that large, but I tend to record a lot of crap. And for me, it's like the way I look at it is it's the old Popeye standard. I am who I am. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. You don't have to pay attention to me, kind of a thing. I do podcasting for myself. Do I crave and want the listener feedback and commenting? And absolutely, everyone does. If you put something out there, you want people to recognize it, or you want people to take a listen to it and give a little feedback or whatever. Everybody wants that. Or is everybody going to get that? No. I mean, I'm a perfect example. Steve may tell me 1,000 times a day that the Pull Bag or whatever other show I do, doesn't have to be that, has 900 downloads this week or has 1,000 downloads this week. That still doesn't reflect to me that, hey, people are listening, but If I ask in an episode, hey, what was your opinion of this comic? And no one comments on the episode, or no one sends an email, or no one does anything like that kind of a thing, it makes me think that no one is listening regardless of the numbers. Like, no one's really paying attention. Am I still going to do it because no one's paying attention? Sure, because I love talking to you guys. I love talking to the other people I talk with. You know, that's the whole point for me for podcasting is I love doing it, and I don't know if I could actually mentally survive without actually doing it. And there's been a few weeks and a few months lately that where I'm like, yeah, I really don't want to do that. Or like I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, the episode that DJ Valentine and I recorded on Flash Season 1 and Arrow Season 3 of Remote Control, we recorded that like 2 weeks ago. I love doing the recording. The editing on the other part, that's a whole other gambit. I have to do my editing early in the morning. If I don't, it won't get done till the next day or the next week or the next month.
Well, yeah, but you say that you do it for yourself, but like I think what the comment is like, you know, when you're recording something, you're not in social media, and when you're recording, you're not the person that, you know, you're not the person you are when you're sitting on the couch with your wife. You have to admit that.
Kind of am. I mean, like I said, I am who I am. I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm not going to, you know.
So you're not conscious of making off-color remarks?
Oh, of course I am. I make them on purpose. That's the whole point, is to go for the funny.
Okay.
That's just the way it is. I'm tired of I've pulled punches for years, and I'm tired of it. And when I started podcasting, I'm like, I am who I am. If I curse, I curse. If I don't, I don't. I mean, there are certain things, yes, that I absolutely will not say, or things like that. There are certain things I stay away from. However, in a podcast, if a joke comes up about whatever, I'm going to make it. You know, like Steve and I do the Michael Bay, you know, shoot my wallet. Shoot for the wallet thing every time a Transformers movie is made, kind of a thing. Obviously, we can't do that now, thank God, because Bumblebee is actually being made by somebody else.
Or so the trailers lead you to believe.
Every piece of information I've seen says it's Travis Knight. So,
produced by Michael Bay.
Yeah, it is being produced by Michael Bay, but he's not in the director's chair. Same thing with the two Turtles movies. He wasn't in the director's chair on those. He was in the producer's chair.
That's because his company did it.
I know.
Well, yeah, but that's also but people still slam him for those movies, and he's not in the chair.
No, see, I don't slam him for the first movie, maybe, but I slam the director more. Whoever's in the director's chair, that's who I'm slamming. I don't, because Michael Bay's company produced those two movies, I don't care. The second one I felt was better than the first one, but still, it was a new thing. It was a reboot that they were trying to do, and they had to start somewhere.
So what about you, Steve? Are you more conscious in, the way that you, in the way that you tweet and you post things and the way that you record, your shows? Are you more conscious about those things than you would be talking with a group of friends waiting in line in a movie?
I've kind of got this. I'm kind of in tune with the same person now. When I first started podcasting, however, there was almost, and this kind of harkens back to when I was a kid and I had first done my first Transformers and Dragon Ball Z websites. I had almost like a dual personality, like a me that everybody knew and then a me online. And that kind of traversed into the beginning of podcasting. And I don't think it was until about the last 4 or 5 years where they've reintegrated into each other, as it were, because my written self, like my social media posting, even a couple years ago, I used to post political banter or my thoughts. Now, not saying I don't still have those thoughts, I just don't voice them. with anybody because I just don't want the conflict. And so like it's one of those internal monologue things at that point. And even with the podcast, when I first started out, I'm sure everybody's familiar with Headshot. That was my soapbox to more or less say everything that I felt and was irritated with. And then looking back on it, I was like, you know, when I removed them because of space issues on the website, I was like, you know, these are never going to see the light of day again. I know that some people still have them on their computers. But I won't intentionally put them back out on the internet because some of the stuff I said, I don't necessarily agree with anymore. And probably wasn't kosher. And I would get into a kind of young, stupid fit of rage and not really think straight. And so that's kind of why they aren't back out there. But like my social media posting, like on Twitter specifically, I've always posted in the same context. Like since I started the account through now, there's very little swearing, if any. I usually use the word crap as my go-to word. And because it's pretty safe. Like it's a load of crap, you know, or I'll like initial it with like BS or something. But because I was going through my tweets, I did like that search history, and I was like, I wonder if I have anything that's like off color in my tweets. And I went through and I did a search and pulled up all these tweets, and there was nothing that was really off color or anything that I wouldn't still say now. So I didn't feel like that was a different personality from what I portray in life. I kind of have toned down the personal opinions department as far as my beliefs or politics or any of that kind of stuff, just because, or even like on some of the shows that are coming out that are being reinvented. I don't want to contribute to the toxicity of everything. And so I've kind of reintegrated that version of myself into just who I am. And so the old me from the beginning of the network probably would have said a lot of off-color things. And then as I got older, I realized that, yeah, that's not really what I want to be known for. It had nothing to do with all of the stuff that goes on in social media now with, you know, like people making off-color jokes or anything like that. I guess I got like common sense and just kind of started doing it on my own before it could become a problem. And I always told my family, and this kind of bit a couple of them hard, is, you know, don't post anything on social media you don't want used against you, because that's quite possibly the easiest way for somebody to find out if you've, you know, said something that's not kosher. And I had a couple of relatives get canned from relatively good jobs because of some of their off-color, either sarcastic remarks or spiteful words, and then it threw their life through a whirlwind. So I don't necessarily agree with people that just post whatever they feel like online. It just kind of shows your true colors if you're sitting there screaming to the ether out there. I know it's kind of a roundabout way of saying everything, but
and again, like I said, it's more so like, yes, do I have common sense up the wazoo? Am I going to sit here and insult people because they don't like something I like? No. Am I going to sit here and make full-on off-color jokes? No. I very rarely, in the 10 years that I've podcasted, brought any kind of politics to any of my podcasts. Like, I don't do the politicking thing online at all. I mean, I share one video from a Saturday Night Live skit. That's not saying, like, without even making a comment about it, I'm not saying anything. I just found the Saturday Night Live skit funny. That was it. Like, you know, that kind of a thing. But, you know, for me, it's like, I grew up where most of my family did not pull any punches. We all cursed. We all did this. We all did that. Yada, yada, yada. So that's who I am. I have no difference. Just because online I'm called TFG1Mike, there's no difference between the TFG1 persona and who I am. I am all of it in one.
And I'm kind of in the same boat now. I just, back then, like at the beginning of the network, it was kind of I was still trying to, I don't know, figure out my personality since forever. But, yeah, it's the last 5 years or so, I would say it's been pretty much the same across the board. Like, I don't, like, anything I would say here, I would say, you know, whether I'm sitting next to my wife or not. I mean, it's, or if, you know, I'm next to family or anybody that just wants to have a casual conversation about anything that I would talk about on these shows, I would have no problem with it.
And there's one, you know, since we're talking about all this, going through my Facebook memories as of October 1st, 5 years ago, I love encouraging Stephen C. Phillips to do evil, evil things. Blah, ha, 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 ha. I have no idea what I talked you into doing. At that time, it was probably some sort of graphical image or something. It was a graphic,
I'm sure.
Probably. I'm sure it was. But
I wonder if it was, I wonder if it was the Maddie Collector black hole.
That's what it was. Yep. That's exactly what it was.
See?
I love Facebook memories. That's my favorite thing on Facebook right now.
Yes.
There's a lot of the time right now, if I post anything on Facebook, it's because I want to tag it for that day.
Mm-hmm.
So it just gets added to it, like when I go and look at it, like next year, you know, and I'll see like, you know, this is when I got an iPhone, or this is when Apple did their, you know, when I said this about that, you know, that's why I post on Facebook now. I'm really curious about that search feature that you brought up, Steve, for Twitter, because I think Twitter could really benefit from that timeline thing too.
Yeah, because I've made some kind of funny jokes on some of my tweets back then, and I wonder if I got one of these pulled up. But yeah, I made some like really funny conversations on Twitter or predictions even, and I've gone back and seen them on there and just thought it was like hilarious just because it was so long ago. I don't know. I would love to see like a timeline feature just to go back like a time machine of content instead of having to do a manual search.
Isn't that what Moments is for now, or am I mistaken in that? I don't know. I don't do a lot of Twitter anymore. I'm more Facebook than Twitter these days.
I can't. So I'm in a love-hate relationship with Twitter right now. So I have never used their official app ever. I don't use the website. When I first started tweeting, I used an app that was developed for the iPhone called Tweety. Oh, good. My cat came in here. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
I used an app called Tweety, which was basically it was Twitter at its most pure. And it was amazing. Then the guy made Tweety 2, and I bought that. That's right. I paid for a Twitter client. And I bought that, and I used that. And then Twitter bought that client to make into their own, and they destroyed it. Like, hands down destroyed it. And then I found out about a new Twitter client that I've been using for almost over 5 years now, I think. It's called Tweetbot. And I don't know if they have it for any other platform than iOS, but it was really good. They added features like the ability to mute keywords and hashtags long before Twitter ever did. And that's one of the things I really liked about it. And they had a really slick, really clean interface. It was just your timeline, just the people you're following. And it was just really slick. Well, I'm sure you guys all heard about this. Was it like last month sometime? Twitter got rid of a bunch of their APIs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically castrated the Tweetbot app.
Oh, wow.
So they lost a whole bunch of their features. Like I used to get push notifications, like when people would at me or direct message me, like immediately. Now they only send them out like once every 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Because that's as often as they can get the information. And they haven't Twitter hasn't offered third-party apps another way of, accessing that information. So the app is basically, and it's annoying because like I can get in like a direct message chat or like a tweet storm with somebody, and I'll be, commenting, and it's like I'll be done with the comment, and then 5 minutes later I'll get like every notification that we had in that conversation. So it'll be like, oh, they said something in, and it's like, no, it's the stuff that I already read 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And yeah. I tried the official Twitter app just to see how usable that was. It's not. It's garbage. I couldn't find my timeline.
Yeah.
It was, here's what you've missed. Here's who you might want to follow. This might interest you, but none of it was who I was following.
The only reason why I use the official Twitter app is because nowadays I have a Samsung Galaxy S9. Back in the day, I used to have whatever current iPhone was out in 2008, 2009, whatever it was. And back then I used Twitterific. And then Twitter bought them and screwed that up and whatever else. Right now, nowadays, I only use the official tweet app, Twitter app, for mentions, notifications, and DMs. I don't use it for my Twitter timeline at all. I use TweetDeck on my computer for that. And that's pretty much all I use for Twitter. And like I said before, I am more on Facebook now than I am on Twitter. Like, it's kind of astonishing to me how much more I use Facebook. Like, right now, in the 10 years that I've been on Twitter, I have 109,618 tweets. The last thing I tweeted was to my wife 3 hours ago. It was a funny dog video. Before that, everything was 3 hours ago, and it's basically messages back and forth trying to set something up. Or 10 hours ago, I retweeted Legends of Tomorrow's new poster thing. Like, whereas, you look at my Facebook, and it's like every 20 minutes, every 45 minutes, every couple of hours. I just find Facebook more user-friendly than Twitter nowadays.
Yeah.
I don't know. That cat is really mad at you.
He's not mad at me. Both cats are getting ready to fight each other. I've had them muted for the last, while you were talking.
I love it when cats fight. It's actually funny, but because you get to watch them like duke it out. They're like wop 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 wop. My cats do that quite often, actually. So I'm going to just read a couple of the nice feedbacks we've gotten for the podcast itself. Scanner51 says, as you know, I'm an avid listener to the show. I frequently write into the show with feedback, and that is what I love about the show, the interaction we get. So that is one thing we need to keep going with the show. I also love the live shows. Hope you get more of those. I love live interaction the best. Great show. 300 more. And then he says... as far as episode 300, he doesn't remember when he found the GCRN, but thinks it was through Toonecasts, but not sure. But this show is great, and the network is great too. And Brad mentions, who's also a avid listener to the show, because on the last podcast I mentioned how some podcast networks, or not podcast networks, but just companies that have podcasting canceled their podcasts, like BuzzFeed or some of the other bigger.
Blaze.
No, they're still doing theirs.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, they just don't
know how to do it.
Yeah. So he says, you commented on the other sites not having a focus and canceling their podcasts. He says, this is a flaw in podcasting. We are here doing this in our own free time as a hobby. He adds, adding Patreon and other nonsense clouds the waters makes us feel more important than what we actually are. And the truth of the matter is, if you have 100 downloads of a show, you might get 2 comments or leave feedback. A lack of feedback isn't a sign of a stagnant show, so don't feel you need to carry or change every 50 episodes. The current format is great. 20-minute shows focusing, this one's a little bit longer, but
It's episode 300.
Yes.
I mean, it has to be longer.
Yes. 20-minute shows focusing on a specific topic are fine. Maybe once a month do a longer show or a longer hour show covering more topics you didn't get to. There's news sites out there that will get news first. There's no point competing. We listeners are here for me and the guests, and says your opinions are what we like to hear and not how fast you can flip a show. So anyway, some of my thoughts, grain of salt, should be used here, and so on. So yes, thank you to everyone who sent in content suggestions as well as the awesome feedback. And not sure what gonna do for post episode 300, but like I said, I'm gonna probably take a week or two off just to kind of mull it over and kind of think. But yeah, it's been crazy doing 300 episodes, and I purposely doubled up episodes this year so that I could hit 300 this year instead of next year. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go back to one episode a week just because it'll be easier time wise for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
So
I put a lot of pressure on myself to get whatever shows I'm doing out. Like, take the pull bag, for example. There are some... Usually when there are 5 Wednesdays in a month, sometimes I will do Wednesdays and Saturdays just to keep the content going for reviews and things like that. But it's one of those things where I want to do so much with that. I want to talk about so many different comics with that show and scheduling and whatever else. And I get it. Everybody else has a life and everything else. And there are times where I don't feel like recording or can't record or whatever. But it's one of those things where if you say it, like from the very beginning, I've said, you know, I've always had an open relationship or an open friendship with whatever listeners I get. And if I can't produce something, I'll record an little update thing saying, hey, show's going to be on hiatus for a while, or I need to step away, or I need to focus on real life. I've said this for 10 years. Real life comes before podcasting. So I don't know. It's just one of those crazy, crazy things.
So anything you guys want to pimp out before we leave?
I think if you, I don't know, maybe, I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, or if you guys have talked about it on another show. But I just got done watching Dragon Prince.
I have not seen
Netflix.
It yet.
It was fantastic, but it's right up my alley. And it's made by the people that made my absolute favorite show on the planet. So, and it also got my friends and I my wife watched it, and then I had Joe Reed, I got him to watch it. He's enjoying it. And then I got my other friend, John, to watch it. And now we're all going to sit down and play a pen and paper RPG.
Oh, sweet.
Wow.
Because when I say it's right in my wheelhouse, there's a pen and paper RPG that we used to play about 14 years ago. It was called Exalted. You know, you get the dice out and the character sheets and everything. And
I remember hearing about that game.
Yeah, there's this show. You watch this show, and I made a joke with my buddy John because he was also really into Exalted along with me. But I made a joke with him. I said, "This is the show where they do that thing where it's like the names and faces have been changed, but the situations are real."
Yeah, yep.
Like, so I was like, this is Exalted. This is 99% Exalted, except the names and the faces have been changed. And so he's like, I'm going to check it out. And so now we're gearing up, and I've got, Joe's ordering books, and I've got Allie making a character. And so we're looking forward to that. But yeah, Dragon Prince, if you liked Voltron, if you liked Avatar: The Last Airbender or Korra, I don't know how you could not like Dragon Prince. It's got a really interesting art style. I don't want to say too much about it. I like the art style. It takes a second to get going, but it's interesting because it feels like frames of animation are missing. and I really don't know how to explain it other than that. It's not like it doesn't. It's animation that doesn't run at 30 frames. I don't even think it runs at 24 frames because that's film. I think it runs at something less than that. But it looks great. So that's all I've got to plug too. And if you have a PS4, I highly recommend playing the Spider-Man game if you're not already.
It's funny you're here. I mentioned this on I think it was 298. I used to watch you all the time on Twitch doing playthroughs, like when you were doing Tomb Raider, the original 2014 game or whatever. And I'm like, oh, everyone's talking about Spider-Man. Well, I don't have a PS4. I can't play Spider-Man. So I just searched out Spider-Man playthrough or whatever on YouTube, and I found this guy, the Rad Brad on YouTube, and I watched all as soon as he was dropping his videos, I watched it all. So I basically have seen the whole game. I love that game. I'm so glad they are bringing White Spider into the comics with Spider-Geddon.
I haven't. My downfall is I haven't played the game in about a week. It's a very I have a weird love-hate relationship with the game right now.
Okay.
So, but that's for, a future episode if I'm on it and Spider-Man is still relevant.
Spider-Man will always be relevant.
So, my basic premise is the music in the game is annoying, and they also did not need to reinvent the combat system. The type of combat in the game was perfected almost a decade ago, and they didn't need to reinvent it. I don't think they reinvented it. I think they kind of copied the Arkham Asylum style. Right. They perfected it a decade ago, and this game changed it for no reason.
Oh.
And you only notice it when you have the controller in your hand. If you're watching it, it looks identical. But when the controller's in your hand, they changed it, and they changed it in the most annoying ways possible.
All right.
So that's and when I say that, it's literally something is just nitpicky as instead of it being, what was it on Xbox? It was Y, and on PlayStation it was triangle to do the counter.
Yeah.
Like counter is now circle, or what was it, B, I think. Mm-hmm. So it's like, why? Every game uses the top button as counter. Why? Like, why would you change that? So it's just like, so you sit down to play it and you feel like it's going to be this one type of game, and it's not that. And I also, I'm not going to lie, I died a whole lot in the freaking tutorial.
Oh, no.
Because that game is stupid and it cheats.
You've heard it here, folks.
Well,
That's right.
So when you're trying to counter, again, unlike Batman, when you're trying to counter, every guy that you're fighting can queue up on you, but you're only going to counter whatever the last guy was that queued up on you.
Oh,
meaning
yeah.
Somebody else is going to punch you despite the fact that you countered. You don't counter all of them. You only counter the guy that's about to hit you, regardless of how close everybody else is that's already queued up to kick your butt.
Wow, that's crazy. So more with Mike Booth Ninja Powers on Spider-Man on PS4 next time, or whenever the heck we end up doing that.
Yep. So thank you for joining me, guys, on episode 300.
Absolutely.
So you can get a hold of the podcast on the following ways. You can get a hold of us on Facebook and the Twitter at Altered Geek. You can get a hold of me at SCP21 and yourselves, sirs.
I am at Booth Ninja 81.
I'm at TFG1Mike.
So until next time, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.
Bye.
Bye.